Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast. This is episode 26, and today we're talking with Kevin. How do you say your last name?
Bjerke. So
Bjerke.
think of drinking a beer and turning a key, Bjerke.
And today we're talking with Kevin Bjerke. Kevin is a senior vice president with a Fortune 200 company. He's been in the financial services world for 25 years. He's also been married for 31 years, has 2 children. He's a veteran with the U.S. Marine Corps for 4 years, serving in the First Gulf War from 1988 to 1993. He enjoys spending time giving back, and he is nominated for Man of the Year with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. Kevin is currently battling stage 4 cancer and is writing his first book.
Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast with Jen Klein, a certified fundraising executive and philanthropic entrepreneur. This show is dedicated to empowering and inspiring you to make a difference in your community and our world. Jen believes all acts of kindness matter, and this show is designed to help you take pride in your everyday actions of improving the lives of others and making a change in the world. Now, here's Jen.
Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Hey, thanks, Jen. Thanks for inviting me.
So we know each other through the Creator Institute because we're both writing a book, and that's how we met. And I was so intrigued by the work you're doing with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And you mentioned earlier off the air that you are currently raising $50,000.
Yeah, so I got plugged into this because a friend of mine, a coworker, he had seen a lot of the posts that I made on social media about my journey fighting stage 4 cancer, and he saw the response, and he recommended, or he nominated me for this award called Man of the Year through the society. And really, the goal is to educate the public, raise money, and bring awareness to the work that's being done through the society. So I've been doing this, we will wrap up here May 7th. So we're kind of getting close to the end of our 10-week, our push. And, I'd never raised money before in my life. I was never a Boy Scout or Girl Scout to where, a lot of times when you're younger, if you get exposure to asking and selling things like that, it really serves you well. And I'd never experienced that before. So for me to set a goal, a team goal of $50,000, that was very scary. You don't know what to expect. What if you get nothing? What if you get very little and you're embarrassed? So I didn't fully know what I was getting myself into, but it's been a really cool journey where I've learned a lot about myself, and the team that we put together to raise this money, they've rallied around, and it's amazing when you see how many people out there actually want to help. They just need a path or an avenue to channel that energy and the ways to do it. So yeah, it's been a great journey so far.
That's amazing. And I'm so intrigued to hear, how do you raise $50,000?
That's a great question. Well, you first of all, make people aware of what you're doing, and you tell them why. And one of the things that really got me involved was a young woman who has the same type of cancer that I do. And she's 24. And she has stage 4 cholangiocarcinoma. That's the cancer. And when I first met her, I was just shocked at how young she was. And stage 4 is generally considered a terminal cancer. And the type of cancer I have, the life expectancy on average is about 6 months. And there's about less than a 2% chance of surviving 5 years. So it's a very aggressive form of cancer. And when I saw this young girl who was just at the beginning of her life, she was 24 years old and literally just the nicest kid, living life the way you want a kid to live, doing yoga. She was a vegetarian, loved her parents, just finished college, and just when I saw that she was battling this, it just really woke me up to not accepting cancer any longer as just a normal thing that happens, but really saying we've got to do something that these stories, especially of younger people, we have to hear fewer and fewer stories like this, because it's not right that someone that young is facing this. And so that was kind of the catalyst. And then we just set a goal. I set a very large goal. I said, let's just try to do 50,000. And it was terrifying, to be honest with you. I thought, what if we raised $500? And they're counting on me to do this. And so I threw myself into the deep end of the pool and said, you know what, you're going to figure it out. And I think the key thing too is the people that rallied around me, the team that we put together. There were 12 of us. It wasn't just me trying to do this. It was 12 of us. And we just started telling people the story and asking for donations. And it's amazing what people will do. And I apologize for the dog barking in the background. What people will do when you ask them for this. And I've been shocked at how the response that we've gotten, it far exceeded what I thought we were going to do. And I think we're going to actually exceed the goal that we set too.
So I think it's easy to say that you're inspired by people's generosity too.
Yeah, absolutely. People, I believe they have a good heart. And I do believe this country, I was an orphan and I was born in Seoul, South Korea. And I was born into poverty and I lived in an orphanage, and I was very fortunate to be adopted to a family here in the United States. And I do believe that we have a culture here in this country of giving and really trying to take care of people. And it's a norm where, you look around and you even look at things like handicap signs and parking. And I feel like we have a fundamental value that you try to take care of those that may have less or that are struggling more. And that's a pretty cool thing to live in a country like that. But a lot of times people just don't know where to channel it. Where do you begin? There's so many options. And when I attached my story to my why, and then I asked, it's amazing the response that you'll get when you actually ask people to help. And the way I look at it is we really are trying to save lives here. Every dollar that they're investing, it's really trying to save lives for not necessarily me, but it will hopefully be for my kids' generation, their kids' generation, so that my hope is that when we look back at how they treated my cancer, it's going to look very barbaric and archaic, and they're going to have new techniques that are more effective, more humane, less damaging to the body. And so, yeah, it's pretty amazing that the human spirit, and I do believe that most of us fundamentally are good and we do want to help others.
That's beautiful. I'm hearing a lot of themes that is resonating with me and the former guests of my podcast. So many of them have said that they had role models when they were children who that they were able to look for. And it sounds like maybe you didn't have that experience. Would you say that is true?
That's a really good question. I don't, when I was in my adolescent years, I don't think I had a lot of role models. I, like a lot of teenagers, I just kind of floated through that part of my life, directionless and really without focus. And I was veering off track, and I was going to, I felt like a pretty bad place where I saw how people were turning out, getting into trouble, and I was on that path. And so I made a pretty big change, and I just said, I've got to make a complete separation. And what I did, Jen, is I signed up for the United States Marine Corp right out of high school. And if you could say those are my first role models of these tough, disciplined Marines that they lived a life of hardship and honor, and they had a formula for how to be successful in tough times. And so I feel like that was my first set of role models, beyond my parents. My parents taught me just being a good person and helping others. I shouldn't discredit that, because my adopted parents set the tone of helping those that need help. And they taught me those values. But then it was the Marine Corps that really gave me a framework to operate in to get results in life. So maybe that's kind of where it all began, is my parents' generosity towards other human beings. And then the Marine Corps formula of getting things done in life. And that combination has really served me well.
That's terrific. So after you served in the first Gulf War, did you go to college?
I did. So I started a career in financial services almost immediately out of the Marine Corps. And I kind of got in over my head, where these were some very smart people working at this company. And I didn't even have a college degree at that time. And to be honest with you, if I applied at the company that I'm working at now, without a college degree, they wouldn't even look at me. So at the time, I was very fortunate to even get a shot. And what I ended up doing is I worked full time on my career, but then I would go to college at night until I did that until I finished my degree. And it was a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice. Most of us, when we come home from work, we're pretty tired. And then to go be a full-time student on top of that, that was difficult. But so both of those things, I do think the work ethic that I learned in the Marines helped me get through that. And once again, everything just keep progressing forward. It's like compounding growth. You grow, and then you grow on top of that growth. So I went to school and during my working years.
That's terrific. My father did the same thing. And I think he was a former guest, John Fisher. And I think he would say the same thing, as the hard work, the discipline really serves you well long-term in your career. And he's in financial services as well. So
is he?
That's funny. Yeah.
Awesome.
But it sounds like the company you worked for at the time, are you still with them?
I am, yes.
Great. And it sounds like they were impressed by the skill set you had in the Marines as well.
Yeah, it's funny. People just gave me a chance. That first leader that hired me just said, we're going to give this guy a chance. And then it was up to me to work really hard. And I always had this mindset to try to be in the top 10% of my peers. So I knew that, hey, a lot of these people, I might not be able to outthink them at first because I didn't have a background in finance or investing or financial services. So I just had to work really hard. And then it was just a matter of me, I guess, working hard enough to where they said, this guy's really good, and then just getting promoted throughout the years. And it was that I just repeated cycle of work hard, try to be towards the top of your peer group, get a promotion, work hard, try to be the top of your peer group. And then here we are 25 years later, and I've been incredibly blessed with a very successful career.
That's amazing. And tell me, how did you decide to write a book?
Great question. So I'm not a writer. A lot of people that have heard my story, kind of going from the orphan to the Marines, and then getting to live the American dream here, and then being diagnosed with cancer, all of these different things, people would continue to tell me, boy, you should really think about documenting some of this. It's a really fascinating story. And I was doing just posts on social media, just updating people, and people kept saying over and over, you should really write about this. And then finally, the last person was actually my coach. I work with a life coach, and she encouraged me to do this. And then she also happened to recommend the Writers Institute, which that's what we're going through right now, to say, hey, there's a program that you can actually go through they will help you get this on paper. So it was more peer pressure than it was me saying I should just write a book. It was people kept saying, you should really document this because they thought it could help other people.
That's beautiful. I love that people encouraged you, and that you followed their advice and their desire to hear more about your story. I'm very much looking forward to reading your book. And can you tell me the working title? And is it a memoir or is it motivational?
That's a really good question. So I don't have a working title yet. I'm still working on that. And it's going to be a combination of just my experiences in life, mixed in with a lot of the people that along the path that helped or inspired me. Maybe they helped me when I did not earn or deserve to be helped, but they helped me progress. And these are people that I admired and looked up to. So it's going to be, part of my story, but then I think the story of all these other people that have helped me along the way that are fascinating people in their own right. And it's part of it's their story too.
I love that. So you'll be leaving your legacy. It's something that I think about as a parent as well. My children, I don't know if the podcast listeners can hear them running around upstairs. But it's something I think about is, and I've talked with former guests, is what are my children going to learn from me and what can I leave them? Do you think about that?
Yeah, that's, I think for those of us that have children, it's one of our key driving forces. And as a parent now, my kids are 20 and 16. What I've learned is instead of telling them what I want them to be or act, it's really you want to show and display it. So when they see their father taking on scary new things and taking risk, I think that shows them that that's okay. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to stumble. But you really want to live a life where you're going to look back and not feel like, not have the regret that I wish I would have done this. So my kids, ultimately, I think they are one of those greater purposes for me in life, in making sure that I've done everything to help equip them the best that I can so that they can live their own journey and be happy. I think the important thing is that instead of me telling my kids how I think they should live, I need to display what I think they should do. So try to become the man that I want, or the person that I want them to be, or model after. So it's going to entail taking risk. It's going to entail failure, facing fear. All of those things that you want your kids to do, I need to display it. I shouldn't just tell them, here's what I think you should do. They need to see their dad doing that. And through that, writing the book, trying to raise money for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, how I am battling stage 4 cancer, all of these things, what I'm trying to do is display to them that you're going to encounter your own challenges and fears, and just try to be a role model of, this is one way that I can choose to act when I'm faced with this. So they're constantly on my mind about, what I hope for them. But the other thing is I have to be respectful. It really is their journey. It's not my journey. I can't project what I think they should do. All I can do is be a role model for my life. And hopefully they learn a few things so that they're going to experience their own life. And I've been really mindful and not trying to project what I think they should be in life, not their career, what they make in money. That's their choice. And I'm here to support them. But I really want to make sure I'm not telling them how I think they should live, because they're their own people.
That's beautiful. I love that. And actually, as a young mom, I'm taking your advice. I thought about taking notes as you're writing. I was like, I need to remember that. Oh, wait, I recorded it. So we talked about role modeling today. And actually, I'm going to bring that up in my book, because so many parents get wrapped up in the day-to-day. And like you said, they forget about maybe their community. Or for me, I get wrapped up in the packing of the lunches, the getting ready. And when I really step outside myself and remind myself, wait a minute, it's really important that I'm a soccer coach and that I'm involved in the classroom, and I love to give to my local food pantry. And those things that I juggle on top of my job, on top of writing a book, on top of taking care of my kids, are really valuable to me. And I really want people to learn about how exciting and empowering it is to be involved with charities. And I'm sure you could say the same thing about how it's changed you and motivated you more to get involved with charities. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. And I think we can display this in many ways, getting involved. And there's a whole range of things that we can do. So I'll give you a couple of examples. I remember my kids and we served at a soup kitchen, and we did very, basic labor. We swept the floors, we cooked, cleaned, and we served one of the evenings. And as we were leaving, the kids, they said, wow, that was really fun. Can we do that again?
Wow.
And we were doing stuff that you'd make minimum wage doing if we were working at a business. And that was one thing. We've done another program called Feed My Starving Children. And you may have something like that there, where you go and pack food for kids overseas. And it's a few hours of just packing food. And every time you do it, you just feel good. It's basically assembly line work where we're putting together food packets, and we feel good when we leave there. I've tried to get them participating in activities like that. But then there's also, I became a big brother last year, where I'm a little bit old to be a big brother. I'm 50 now. And I just said, I've always wanted to be a big brother, and I feel like I've got something I can help another little brother with. So I became a big brother, and they get to see that you're trying to help other people in that way. And then with the raising of the money for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, they are actually a part of the team. So, as you raise your kids, you hope that they end up, as adults with good hearts and helping those that need it. And I think it's important that we sprinkle this in throughout their life so that it's just normal for them. It's not a weird, unusual thing, but it's a normal part of giving back to this amazing culture that we're a part of, this country, and then also just our fellow human being. And, how would you want somebody to act to your loved one if they were down on their luck? You would hope someone would come and help them. And that's the opportunity that we have. So looking back, Jen, I look at my kids and I'm so incredibly proud of how they've turned out as just good people and good citizens. And but I think it comes down to us creating that normal for them in displaying it, not telling them what they should do, displaying and getting them involved in that kind of stuff.
That's beautiful. And I'm curious about the advice that you would give my listeners to get started. I think that can be a hard part sometimes, as they don't know where to start, or maybe they're nervous to get started because they have such busy lives.
I think the first thing in hindsight, I would ask, what are you passionate about? And there are a lot of different ways that we can get involved. And for me, the passion was around cancer, because I'm battling that, and I've seen just how devastating it's been to other families and people affected by cancer. So that hits home. And the times when maybe I don't want to do the hard work, it propels me and motivates me to keep going. So the first thing I would say is find things that you have emotional attachment to. Another thing that I want to get involved in too is adoption. So I was adopted through the Lutheran Social Services organization here in the Twin Cities. And that's going to be something that I want to help foster and help bring money to at some point, because without them, I wouldn't have had this incredible opportunity. So I would say the first thing, find things that emotionally touch you. And then, boy, I tell you, the world is pretty big, and you can find any type of organization out there that's doing something. And I mean, it can be as easy as searching on social media for organizations that help, whether it's animals or anything. I think you can go to that level, but then also just make it normal for yourself. And you can make it non-structured too. The joy that you get in helping another person, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. I mean, it can be pretty simple. You can just help other people in your community. I think we all get those little donation requests like on Facebook and people raising money for whatever. And donate to that every once in a while and just see how you feel after you do that. It feels pretty good. It feels good to help someone in a meaningful way towards their goal. So I mentioned that I was terrified when I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to raise $50,000. Well, that is the culmination of all these people rallying around, right? And donating. And that person that puts out there, I want to raise whatever, $1,000 for my birthday towards, an animal shelter. That's kind of a scary thing to put out there. I would just say, see what happens if you donate. See how you feel after you do something like that. My guess is you're going to feel pretty good after you do it. And there's so many simple ways. Just get started and don't overthink it.
I just donated to UNICEF for the war in Ukraine.
Yes.
And that was, like you said, very rewarding. There's nothing I can do except donate to the people who are over there and can support those people. And that made me feel really good.
Yeah, because I think, with things like that, Jen, they feel so out of our control. But when we all collectively contribute like you just did, we can make a difference, when we all do it. And the cool thing is, I think that action, what you just did, you've committed yourself to hopefully, seeing that this turns out in a good way for as many people. And the more of us that do that, I think the better. You just reminded me of a story of my son. He's a 16-year-old, so he's a sophomore in high school. He and a buddy of his approached a local business and asked them, we want to raise money for through our school for Ukraine. And the business cut them a deal on cost. And the kids took the orders from their schoolmates and they brought this food. And I want to say they raised like $800 just from students with this food for high schoolers. And they just did it at their level. It wasn't like anything huge, but I think that the people that they become by doing that, that's the reward too, right? They've just become hopefully better citizens and better human beings. And it's something that they can be really proud of. So I think it's great that you donated to Ukraine. And I have a friend of mine who is from Poland, and this is it's an emotional subject for her. And we gave money too, because we feel like this is horrible what's happening over there. And we've all got to contribute.
Yeah. Thank you for your kind words. I love that I can make a difference with other people. And it is sometimes, I think people feel like what they do doesn't matter because there's so much going on. But like you said, there are so many people who are doing good and are collectively making a big difference. And I love how you talked about our country. We are the most generous country in the world, which really excites me to be involved with philanthropy in the nonprofit world and to see how generous people are. And wondering what your vision is for the world that your children will be in one day, and what you would like to see change in the world.
Yeah. So the more I look, what I hope is I don't know if there will always be new problems in the world. And I won't be able to control that. What I can change is the way my kids hopefully are on the inside, to where they're able to adapt to whatever problems the world throws at them. So I think it's for them. I hope that they live in a world where, things like, fear of nuclear bombs. I was growing up in the 80s where it was literally like you're hiding under a desk, teaching drills, because the potential for nuclear war was real. I mean, we lived on the brink, and now we're talking the annihilation of everything that as we know it. And so there are always going to be new problems, right? Whether it's COVID, pandemic, it just feels like there's always going to be something. And when we look back at past generations, they've been through some incredible difficulties. So knowing that that's the world and that will never change, and there's just going to be a new thing, right? All we can do is hope that, if we instill the values to where our kids are able to, the next generation, meet the challenges of whatever they're going to be faced with, and they can handle it appropriately. I think we've got to instill values with these kids so that they are ready for their next challenge. Like the greatest generation, World War II, that was their big test. And we need to make sure that our kids are ready. And it's funny, when my kids were growing up, I thought, boy, they've got it so easy. They really don't have a lot of adversity. And then when COVID hit, they experienced adversity unlike anything that I had ever experienced as a kid. And so I guess the world, all I can hope for is that they are the types of people that they can get through whatever challenges that they're faced with, just knowing that there's going to be new challenges for them. But I'm also very hopeful. This new generation, they're pretty smart. They're incredibly resourceful. They have access to more information than we ever dreamt of having as kids. And so we've got to invest and also have belief that they're pretty amazing too. These kids coming up now, they're very resilient. They get a bad rap, instant gratification and things. And Jen, tell me, the going through school is very different for me than when I was a kid. So even going through this process of writing a book, one observation that I had is the biggest challenge for me is just the flood of constant information that's being thrown at us. And you have to sift through what's important. Whereas when I was a kid growing up, going to school, they just handed you a syllabus. It's simple, do your work and be quiet and we're done. Now it's just a never ending stream of information. So, I think that there's a good thing for them that they have access to information, but I also think that it's a challenge for them too.
So I have one final question for you today. And now that I've gotten to know you better, I can see how positive you are. And I love that. It's a value of mine to stay optimistic and hopeful. Like you said, despite the challenges, particularly, this pandemic that we went through. But how do you stay positive?
The trick for me is I have to intentionally put positive things into my head every day. So I'm always looking for inspiration, and it's everywhere. There are inspiring people everywhere. And we live in a world where I do believe that we are inundated with negative messages, whether it's on the TV, our phones. And so I have to every day put good things in my head. And it comes in the form of, I do a lot of reading. Use your phone, use this thing as a good thing, of positive instead of bad. And what I would encourage everyone to do is start the day by just finding anything from, there's a million TED Talks out there that talk about inspiring people that just, part of writing this book, we were encouraged to go through and watch things like listen to podcasts, TED Talks. And I took that seriously, and I would watch multiple ones per day, and I just couldn't help but be inspired. So that's the first thing, is constantly every day putting in my head that I need to recharge and I need to find the good, because there's more good than bad, but we're told that there's more bad than good. The other thing is just when I look back at my life and I think, boy, how lucky I am that everything worked out the way that it has for me. I just can't help but think you've had it pretty good, and unfortunately, if you look at human history, the majority of it is suffering. And we live in this really narrow time where we've got it good. For the most part, we're not hungry. We live in, heat and air conditioning, and even when it is snowing or raining out. So we live in such an amazing time that we've got to step back and ask ourselves, is this the normal human experience? And it isn't. The normal human experience for all of the past generation has been just incredible toughness and suffering. And here we are, and we've got it very, very good. So when you look around, I do believe, Jen, that you will see what you want to see. So if you want to see the good, it'll be good. And that doesn't mean we don't see that there is absolutely bad stuff out there. But what you'll notice is the majority of the stuff is good. And it's just a choice that we get to make every day. And everything is what you make of it.
I love that you talk about affirmations and gratitude. Those are really important to me as well. And I just want to put a plug in for your fundraiser. What is the website people can go to donate to your $50,000 goal?
So that's a great question. So I actually have a personal page. The best way to get to it, I'm just thinking, if you are on social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, if you just look up Kevin Bjerke, and I have my my page, and I do have some videos on there on the why we're doing this. So I would say Kevin and then just Bjerke, and I will also send you a link to Jen with that.
Great. I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
Kevin, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Thanks, Jen. Take care.
Take care.